Most people don't fail because they're lazy. They fail because they're exhausted, unclear, and trying to prove something they were never meant to earn in the first place. And today, we are decoding performance. Not as pressure, but as alignment. Hey, beautiful humans. Welcome back to Divine Decode. I am Pragya, and today we are decoding something that sounds corporate on the surface, but is deeply human, deeply spiritual, and honestly, deeply misunderstood. Performance coaching. Because let's be real, most people don't lack motivation, they lack clarity and they lack structure that actually supports their nervous system. And sometimes they're just trying to run a high performance life on low sleep, low hydration, and an emotional operating system that hasn't been updated since, Windows 95. And today's guest is Rob, who is a high performance coach speaker and the creator of the prime performance process. We'll learn about it in this conversation today. And Rob works with entrepreneurs and leaders who are outwardly successful but inwardly stuck, helping them rebuild momentum, recalibrate confidence, and perform sustainably without turning life into a burnout Olympics. And, we'll also learn about the alignment tools with him today. So, if you've been busy but not fulfilled, productive but not present, or achieving but quietly empty, this episode is not random. It is a mirror. Let's decode. And firstly, I welcome you, Rob, on the show. It's a great honor to host you today, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to diving in as well.
That's great, Rob. So, to start with, then, um, high performance is celebrated everywhere, right? And that is the new normal, and it has always been like that. But quietly, a lot of people they attach their worth to their output, right? So in the process, they forget what are they doing? Are they exhausting themselves too much? They just all they care about is the output. And success then becomes proof of being enough that okay, if I've done this, if I've gained this output, if I'm enough or if I'm not. So how do you help clients tangle through this who think that they are from what they produce and um their whole identity is what their output is, so how do you deal with them?
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly well. I think in today's world and society, everybody honors and respects and chases after this high performance, high success, go, 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 grind, 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 and sleep when you're dead kind of mentality. And I think in that process, we get caught up in just chasing those milestones and checkpoints and moving on to the next letter, the next goal, or whatever it may be, that we oftentimes lose ourselves in that process. For me specifically, I was one of those individuals. Fresh out of university, I was in the profession that I was working and I quickly scaled my book of business up to the point where I was working 15, 16, sometimes 17-hour days, doing that for 7 days a week for about 3 years straight without taking a day off. And in that process, I had achieved what a lot of high performers are seeking in terms of success, but at the at the cost of sacrificing my life, the relationships, and even my health too. And that's really what I am seeking out to do now is redefining success for these professionals so that they don't get trapped in the same process and same habits and lose their selves as well and help them live the life that they're trying to while still having fun and enjoying stuff.
I totally resonate with that. And thank you for sharing your journey through it, because we forget how, just running behind it, as you very well mentioned, sleep until you, feel like um there is nothing ahead of it. So yeah, that is a red flag, and thank you for identifying that and also letting our listeners uh resonate with the same. You talk a lot about clarity as a driver of momentum, and I want to know, in your experience, what creates clarity the fastest and what silently destroys it? Because, clarity, there is a thin line between clarity and illusion of being clear about something. So, what creates clarity the fastest for you? And yeah, what do you think can also destroy it at the very same time?
Yeah, see, I think having clarity, what it really does is it allows you to make better decisions and choices. And oftentimes we get caught up in this hustle culture, like we were just mentioning a minute ago. And oftentimes with that, we are rewarded with the speed of implementation. So people are trying to reach that success or achieve that accomplishment at a faster rate. And I believe that speed is great, but without direction, speed just becomes a distraction. And then that can end up getting you caught in this hamster wheel of circle, and continuously spinning, but never actually moving forward and achieving what you're actually trying to. So when you're talking about clarity, it's important to really reflect, but reflect consciously. And it's important to reflect on certain things like your foundational values, the lifestyle that you're trying to build and grow, your aspirations that you are personally chasing after, and also the growth opportunity. So, what kind of skills and habits and things are you learning, and the lessons that you're learning, and the things that you need to learn in order to continue to move forward? And when you ask yourself these types of questions, it helps you really identify the flag at the top of the mountain that you're trying to climb metaphorically. And that allows you to then make better decisions because if you're proposed an idea or an event or some sort of assignment and it's not aligned with the values of who you are or help you build the life that you're trying to live, or if it's directly going to pull you closer to your goals, it's probably a better decision to not go with that opportunity and go elsewhere. And at the end of the day, that's really what clarity is. That gives you that clear vision, that clear picture, so you can make better decisions going forward.
Yes, absolutely. And I totally resonate with it again because, clarity also, as I also, well, I had this doubt really because, you know, clarity, when you talk about it, it goes haywire, right? You really don't know what clarity is, and that is the main illusion. And thank you for, again letting us know your perspective through it. Also, I want to know that if somebody is listening and they feel, mentally foggy or scattered right now, what is the first non-overwhelming micro move that you would give them in the next 24 hours to, have a perspective of their clear conscious and, something which you would suggest that, okay, this is probably something that would help you because it's it's clearly all words when we talk about all of these things, and practicality comes in picture when we talk about the routines. So yeah, anything that you feel like.
Yeah, so when talking about routines and setting up efficiency and really optimization, it's really about smoothing out certain processes. So if you're feeling overwhelmed and let's say you're a little overwhelmed because you finally got some clarity, you know where you're trying to get to, and you're currently at point A, and you want to achieve this accomplishment at point B. So now you know where you're at and where you're trying to go. So now you're better at making these decisions. It's still a long journey. So in order to smooth out that journey, we run into you want to make sure that you go at your own pace. And this reminds me of a time when it's funny, I was actually entered into a meatball eating competition. And during the competition, they set everybody up in this horseshoe type setup. And I was at one of the far ends of the competition. So my meatballs came out most recently and they were nice and warm. And as soon as the competition had started, I was scarfing down the meatballs and trying to eat them as fast as I could. I was looking around. And as I'm eating these meatballs, I started to go lower and lower into the bottom of the bowl that they gave me. The problem is because the bowl was new and the meatballs were more fresh than the other competitors, as I got lower, the meatballs were still hot because they were fresh out of the oven or however they were making the meatballs. And I started to burn my mouth. And in that process, I was panicking because time was running and I wanted to win this competition. So I developed a system to space out the meatballs on a plate so that they could cool off. And then from there, the cool meatballs I would eat. And I created this conveyor belt system to increase efficiency to would ultimately help me win the meatball eating championship. And I won this giant belt and it was a big parade. Everybody was super excited. But the point here is when you are trying to systematize or optimize a process and things are overwhelming, it's key to remember that slow is smooth and smooth becomes fast. So it's important. So when you are overwhelmed, you want to sit back, reflect for a second, go at your own pace. And I say pace because that's an acronym. And if you remember how to spell pace, PACE, it'll help you learned to go slow, to smooth out, and then be able to pick up speed. And the first letter of PACE is P, and that's prioritize. Figuring out what items or to-do list tasks that you have, split them into two columns. Figure out what is the most important task for your end goal, and also what is the most urgent task that needs to be delivered immediately. And then you number these and you can figure out which are the most important, which are the most urgent to get done sooner. Then you can move to the second letter A, which is automate. Are there processes or routines that you do on a day to day basis that you might be able to write down, systematize, and hand off to somebody else? Or is there some kind of software technology now available that you can leverage to help speed things up so you don't have to waste time doing that? And then C, the third letter in PACE, is cut distractions. So where are you being distracted? Where can you cut back and smooth things out? Or is it certain conversations you're having with people? Is it doom scrolling on social media? Or where are you wasting time that can cut back to increase your efficiency and optimize? And then finally, the last letter is E, which is evaluate and adjust. And this is where you go back and reevaluate the priorities. What can you delegate or automate? And what kind of distractions can you cut out? And then you can move forward. Because at the end of the day, slow is smooth and smooth becomes fast.
That is so, so beautiful. And thank you for that acronym again, because, it was easier to understand. And I love that because, clarity, it isn't a vibe that we wait for, right? And it is sometimes a decision that supports with structure and that we have to support with structure. And thank you for that again. I want to know that, resilience, it is one of your core principles. You've talked about it furthermore as well. And many people, they hear resilience or to be resilient as, numbing themselves and keep going. And whether they're in two or die situations, they're like, okay, I'll just do it, I'll just finish it. And they sometimes even forget about themselves. They, as you also mentioned, there are so many instances wherein people, they don't sleep at all just because they have something ahead. Being ambitious is very well, and it's the best thing that can happen. But again, there is a certain time when resilience should be understood. And I want to know your perspective through it, and how do you see in real life?
Yeah, so resilience to me is really the total capacity to withstand and handle different stressors and challenges that get thrown at you through life and entrepreneurship, business, and just regular everyday life. there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. It's never a smooth sailing as we'd like it to be. But your resilience is your ability to handle and act emotionally and level headed during those ups and downs. And you really build resilience by learning how to audit and actually challenge yourself appropriately and effectively, and making sure that it's aligned with what you're building up to. Because if you're somebody who's constantly beating yourself down, it's not going to really allow room for growth. So if you're somebody who just bullies through and continues push, 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 chances are you're not going to be as resilient to handle the next big challenge that comes your way. However, if you slowly and accurately build yourself up by rising to the challenge, it'll equip you with that resilience so you can handle the different stressors that come your way. So, how do you rise to the challenge? And it's easy because I'm a big acronym guy again. So if you remember how to spell RISE, RISE, you will hopefully remember that you want to R review. So you want to do another audit on yourself over the last month or a couple months and seeing, hey, what were my biggest stressors? Was it something at work? Was it a relationship? Was it an individual person? How have I been doing? Have I been challenging myself at all in work, or have I been kind of coasting and sailing through every day? And then painting a picture and plotting yourself on the resilience matrix to see how close you are to the diamond zone. Because once you review, you move to the second letter, which is I, and that's identify what needs to change. Because if you're in a season of sprint and you're about to slow down and go on vacation, there's no reason to keep piling more things on. You want to lower yourself down and embrace the journey of down season and identify that, and so that you can act appropriately for the next letter, which is S, and that stands for strategy. So, what is going to be the strategy moving you forward? So, to recap so far, we've reviewed the different stressors, we've identified what needs to change. Now, we're going to strategize on what kind of actions, habits, or strategies we can do that'll help prepare us moving forward. So, if we're gearing up for a new challenge or a new sprint season, we want to make sure that we're challenging ourselves adequately so we can handle those ideas and stressors that will come up down the road. And then the final letter is evaluate and execute. So, what are the targets that we're going to do? If it's something where we're downplaying and trying to allow ourselves to down regulate, maybe the game plan there is to implement some sort of meditation practice to allow ourselves to calm our minds so that we can handle bigger problems down the road.
That's perfect. And again, I love your acronym game in this because that makes it so much easier. And rise, as you explained, is also very, it feels doable when you say it. So thank you again. Um, when okay, now when we move from resilience and clarity and your perspectives through it, I want to talk about optimization now. So, optimization, it can be powerful, but sometimes it can also be perfectionism in a well-designed planner. And there is a thin line when it, becomes from optimal or optimization to obsessive perfectionism. So, how do you tell when optimization is serving growth versus when it's really about control and fear? So, how do you demarcate and you know uh, be in line when it comes to optimization?
Yeah, I love that because it brings us right back to the previous acronym of going at your own pace, and it allows you to look at and prioritize what's important and what's urgent and what needs to be handled for your goals. So this is where we bring everything all together. So we prioritize and we figure out what's urgent, and we can do that by going back to the flag acronym earlier about direction and clarity and make better decisions. And when we come back to optimizing again, it's like, okay, well, do we need to do this, or are we over optimizing just to over optimize? And we use the clarity that we got earlier, paired up with the resilience that we're developing, and then partnering together again with the prioritization, the automation, the cutting of the distractions, and then the evaluation, which will allow us to make better decisions at the end of the day so that we don't waste money, resources, and energy working on different things and optimizing when we don't need it and it's not necessary. We can spend more times on things that are higher priority and importance to us.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. That's the real upgrade. And um, yeah, I truly resonate with that. Um, so you talk about optimization, you talk about the clarity behind it and how it is serving growth. So what is that one popular optimization habit that you actively, discourage because it actually backfires for high performers? And we all talk about how you can improve your optimization, but there are also some red flags in it. So what is that one habit that you discourage that, okay, this isn't something that should be done?
Yeah, I would say the over glorifying of the morning routines. I was somebody who once believed that I needed to have the perfect morning routine to get everything done in my day. I would wake up early, I would journal, I would meditate, practice my Spanish, I would work out, go outside, get some sunlight, drink lots of water. And by the time that I'd finished my morning routine, it would already be in the late afternoon. So my morning routine became my morning and afternoon routine. And it was slowing down a lot of the progress that I was trying to make because I got so caught up on these little things that I thought were going to help me do better. When in reality, all you got to do is really focus on what's most important for you in that season. So sometimes what even though a good thing is a good thing, sometimes too much of a good thing can also be a bad thing and slow you down. So the morning routine now for myself is just, all right, let's get up, get some of the high priority things done, and let's move on to the next thing.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. That is actually very simple, and that is where I actually understand that and resonate with it because I also see um I'm talking about myself because here I've seen it, and everybody that you listen talking about high performance or even high performers, sometimes they say is you get up early and that is when everything is sorted. And being at an age where my parents also, all they have to say is if you want to fix anything, just get up early. And sometimes that routine, it works for some people, but for some people it just does not. If I talk about myself, I wake up and it's not the best day that I've had ever whenever I woke up, too early or like that. So, yeah, I totally, totally understand that. And I hope a lot of our listeners do resonate with that because that is a very common practice that we all, force ourselves into. And thank you for marking that out.
Of course.
Um, uh, Now, as we come to the last segment of it, I just want to ask, what is that one grounded, non-awkward way to ask the support that does not, feel needy? Because social support and opportunity creation work, all of this together, um, in your prime performance process, as you've mentioned, it is a very prime thing. So, what is that one grounded way to ask for support that won't feel needy or that won't feel make somebody feel embarrassed, but it actually also strengthens leadership and their sense of self? So yeah, what would that be for you?
Yeah, I think really the best thing to do if you're seeking support or help from somebody else is really be more interested in other individuals. I feel like a lot of times too many people reach out to friends, family, and they only reach out to talk to other people to check in when they need something. And that is you wanna build a relationship before you need it. So you wanna spend time checking in on your friends, family, coworkers, and just have genuine conversations with them. offer help for whatever they might be going through, or at least be there to try to connect them with somebody else, or even just listen to what they're got going on. Maybe it's problems, or maybe everything is great in their lives, but just being there and offering yourself to listen and be a good person helps strengthen those relationships. So then later down the road, when you do need some help or some support from somebody else, you've already built these relationships with a lot of individuals who already know, like, and trust you. And they're most likely going to want to reciprocate some of that. But at the end of the day, building relationships takes effort. Whether it's a personal, romantic, or professional relationship, it's going to take time, energy, and effort, regardless of who it is and the depth of the relationship. But the best thing here is to make sure that you build it before you need it.
Hmm. You've shared so many insights today, and I've loved all of it. For our listeners, I have a 24-hour mini challenge, and I hope you do that because write one sentence, the next right outcome I want is dash and whatever it is, and take one action today that supports that outcome. And remove one friction point, a distraction, a messy tab, or a draining scroll habit that is there. If you need support, text one person that I'm working on something important. Can you check in on me tomorrow? And by this process, you'll probably realize that, okay, these are the steps that you may follow if you ever want help and if you ever feel the most exhausted in the room. And ask yourself that what would I try if I truly believed I was supported? And if you do this, you're not just performing, you're aligning. And if you want to go deeper with Rob, download his free resource, 5 Keys to Clarity and Momentum, at survivingthesidehustle.com. Rob, thank you for bringing both precision and presence into this conversation. And I loved your insight, and I truly acknowledge your wisdom. And this wasn't just about performing better, but you've taught us about living cleaner, clearer, and more sustainably, and living actually, and not just surviving or running in a race. And again, to everybody who is listening, if this episode unlocks something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who's been stuck in effort without fulfillment. Rate, review, and subscribe. It helps this show reach the people who need it the most. This is Pragya, and this was Divine Decode. Until next time, stay grounded, stay honest, and keep decoding.